Have you ever gotten fertilizer and compost mixed up? Well, today on the show we're breaking down the differences so you'll never be confused again. I am your host, and I want to welcome you to another episode of our Beginner Gardening Bootcamp series. In this 6-episode series, we're covering everything you need to know to start your own garden from scratch. If you haven't already, I encourage you to check out our first 4 episodes by clicking the links in the description below or by visiting our website. You can also subscribe to our channel so that you get notified every time we release a new episode. So, if you've been in the market for fertilizer and compost, you've probably noticed that they're often used interchangeably by big box stores and sometimes even online. But if you ask any seasoned gardener, they'll tell you there's a clear difference between the two. And in this episode, we're going to explain what those differences are so you can determine which one is right for you and your garden. We'll also go over what happens when you mix them together, which is something you definitely want to avoid. So stay tuned and let's dive in. The first thing you should understand is the difference between fertilizer and compost. Fertilizer is a substance that contains one or more nutrients that are used to stimulate growth in plants. It often comes in the form of a powder or a liquid and has chemical compounds that provide the plant with nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, also known as NPK. Compost, on the other hand, is decomposed organic matter that's added to the soil to improve its quality and fertility. It is full of beneficial microorganisms and a wide variety of nutrients that are slowly released into the soil over time. Compost is an excellent way to reduce, reuse and recycle your food scraps and yard waste instead of throwing them in the trash where they end up in a landfill. Another important difference between fertilizer and compost is how quickly they work. Fertilizer is designed to provide plants with an immediate boost of nutrients, leading to faster growth and larger yields. However, compost doesn't start working as quickly. It takes time for the microorganisms in the compost to colonize the soil and begin releasing nutrients. This means that fertilizer is a good option if you need to see results quickly, such as when you're trying to revive a struggling plant, or if you're looking to maximize the yield of your vegetable garden. On the other hand, compost is a better choice if you're looking for a long-term solution to improve the overall health and fertility of your soil. This is because compost not only provides nutrients, but also improves soil structure, aeration and water retention, which leads to healthier, more frost-resistant plants. It's also worth mentioning that both fertilizer and compost have their own pros and cons. One con of using fertilizer is that it can cause environmental damage if it's not used correctly. Excess fertilizer can run off into waterways, causing algal blooms and depleting oxygen in the water, which is harmful to aquatic life. Additionally, some fertilizers contain hazardous chemicals that can be toxic to humans and animals if they are not handled properly. On the other hand, compost is much more eco-friendly. It's made from natural materials and it doesn't contain any hazardous chemicals. Another con of fertilizer is that it's typically more expensive than compost. This is because fertilizer is a manufactured product that requires processing and packaging, which adds to its cost. Compost, on the other hand, is much cheaper since it can be made at home from your own food scraps and yard waste. Now that you know the basics of fertilizer and compost, you might be wondering when to use each one. As we mentioned earlier, fertilizer is a good option if you need to see results quickly. For example, if you have a vegetable garden, you may want to apply fertilizer before planting to give your crops a head start. You can also use fertilizer to revive a struggling plant or to promote flowering and fruiting. However, it's important not to over-fertilize your plants, as this can lead to a condition called fertilizer burn. Fertilizer burn occurs when the roots of the plant are damaged by high concentrations of fertilizer. This can cause the leaves of the plant to turn yellow or brown and eventually fall off. In severe cases, fertilizer burn can kill the plant. When it comes to using compost, you have much more flexibility. You can add it to your garden beds at any time without worrying about burning your plants. In fact, it's a good idea to add compost to your garden beds on a regular basis, even if you don't see an immediate difference. This will gradually improve the health and fertility of your soil over time. One way to make sure you're re-adding enough compost to your garden is to do a soil test. A soil test will tell you what nutrients your plants need and how much compost you need to add to meet those needs. So now that you know when to use each type of fertilizer and compost, you might be wondering what happens when you mix the two together. Well, the short answer is that you shouldn't mix them together. When you apply fertilizer and compost together, the microbes in the compost can end up consuming the fertilizer before it has a chance to reach your plants. This means that your plants won't get the nutrients they need, and you'll end up wasting both the fertilizer and the compost. Not to mention that mixing fertilizer and compost together can create an unpleasant odor. This is due to the decomposition process that occurs when the fertilizer and compost are applied together. As the microbes break down the organic matter in the compost, they also release ammonia, which has a strong odor. Mixing fertilizer and compost together can also create a crust on the surface of the soil. This crust can prevent water from infiltrating the soil, which can lead to runoff and erosion. Additionally, a crust can also suffocate the roots of your plants, which can cause them to die. Finally, mixing fertilizer and compost together can increase the amount of weeds that grow in your garden. This is because the nutrients in the fertilizer provide the weeds with the energy they need to grow. Now, if you're interested in learning how to make your own compost at home, we've got you covered. Check out our step-by-step guide on how to make compost at home. We'll walk you through everything you need to know from start to finish, including what materials you need, how to set it up, and how to use it once it's ready. You can find the link in the description below. One of the biggest mistakes gardeners make is assuming that all soils are created equal. In reality, different types of soil require different types of amendments to reach their full potential. For example, clay soil needs organic matter and lime to improve its drainage and pH levels, while sandy soil needs compost and manure to improve its water retention and nutrient content. That's why it's important to get a soil test before amending your soil. A soil test will tell you what nutrients your plants need and what amendments you need to add to meet those needs. Now, we'd love to hear from you. What kind of soil do you have in your garden, and what kind of amendments have you added to improve it? Let us know in the comments below. if you're enjoying our beginner gardening series. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you're re-notified as soon as our next episode drops. You can also check out our website for more beginner gardening tips and resources. In our next episode, we're going to dig deeper into soil. We'll cover everything from soil composition to soil amendments and how to improve your soil SPH levels. Make sure to check it out, and we'll see you there.